Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Larry Larsey. Welcome back to the channel. I've got a great video for you today. We are going to be taking a portrait, and I'm going to show you how I would edit it from start to finish. We're going to go from this image to this image. We will take it as a raw file and show you every step that I would do. Now, even though I would typically use LuminarAI and Topaz, things like that, as part of my workflow, for this image we're only going to use Photoshop so that you don't have to have any of the other software in case you want to follow along or try this with your own image. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll take a second to subscribe down below. I really could use your help. My New Year's resolution this year was to reach 1 billion subscribers. I'm still like 990,000 short, but don't get tied up in the numbers. We're getting there slowly but surely. But if you're ready to get in and do a little work on an image, let's roll the intro. Okay, so here we are in Camera Raw with the file we're going to work on. And I don't do a ton of stuff in Camera Raw. I basically just get it into Photoshop because that's where I'm more comfortable working, but a lot of people do a lot of these fixes here in Camera Raw, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to show you how I do it. We're pretty good on color balance. I'm going to warm it up just a touch. Just make it a little warmer just because I like that look. I'm going to tweak the exposure just down a hair because I'm a little worried about the forehead in this blouse. And then under detail, I've got it set to, let's probably drop down to 30 because I'm not too worried about sharpness on this image. But just some basic tweaks there, and let's bring it into Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop. First thing I'm going to do is make a copy here, and we'll call this retouched because I want to be doing all this work on a copy. I don't want to be doing it back here on the original, so that we still have that to go back to if we need to. So as I analyze this image, some things that I think are going to need to be improved on this. One, I think this blouse is way too bright. It's brighter than her face. And, you know, it's white, so it's supposed to be a light part of the image, but I think we can make that a little bit darker. I think we can clean up some of these stray hairs through here. I'd probably take care of some of these little blemish imperfections through here, and add a little bit of a texture to the background just to add some interest. And then we'll just do a little overall dodging and burning to it. So that's kind of what we're looking at on this image, and we'll no particular order. Let's start with the blouse. And because it's white, let me zoom in just a little bit here. Let's see what we're doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this. You can hit W or come up here to the quick selection tool. And what we're going to do is select just the white. I'm going to need a smaller brush here. Okay, better go ahead and get the strap as well while we're here. All right, get this piece. Oh, we got a little too much, so I'm just going to hit the option to take that away. Okay, it's a little sloppy. Probably could do a little better on the selection, but I think for our purposes this will work okay. So we've copied that. Now what I'm going to do is hit Command-C to copy, Command-V to paste. So what we've done here is we have got on this thumbnail, you can see it's just the blouse. If we turn off the other two, that's all that's here is just the blouse. Now what I might do while I'm here is go ahead and grab this eraser. Probably would normally do this on a mask, but I just want to clean up just a little bit of those dark edges there because those will end up being a problem when we do what we're getting ready to do next. Okay, that's fine for now. So right now we can't see this copy of the blouse because it's just sitting on top of a duplicate of itself. But what we're going to do while we've got this layer selected is change the blending mode to multiply. And you can see how that definitely darkens everything down. So we've got that. Let's look at it before and after. If that's not enough and you want to go a little bit darker, you can drag it down and make a copy. Now we've really gone dark with this. So we've gone from here to here to here. I like that. I think that's going to be perfect for what we want. So that's what I'm going to do. And what I will do is select both of these, click on the little folder here, and we'll just call this blouse. Just so we know that that is the blouse adjustments that we've made. Now one thing you may notice is I'm not happy with how dark it has made the strap. I think that it's made it too dark that it almost looks like it's doesn't go with that outfit. So what we would do here is basically add a mask to that folder. So now we're affecting both of the blouse layers. I'm going to get a brush and just pick a soft round brush. Let's put it down to say 30%, 31%. Oh, need to switch to black. And I'm just going to kind of mask some of this out. That's probably good. It's still close to her face, so I don't want it to be too bright, but I feel like that matches better what we had. So I'm happy with the blouse now. Again, there's the before and the after. And I think we've brought that a little more back into key. Okay, so now that we've got the blouse taken care of, let's go to work on some of these stray hairs. We want to do this on a separate layer, so I'm going to click here to make a new layer. We'll call this hair. We're going to come over here to the spot healing brush, or hit J. Now we want to make sure that we've got sample all layers selected because there's actually nothing on the layer that we're working on right now. Zoom in a little bit more. And then I'm just going to go through here, and I like to use this for the hairs that are way out by themselves like this. It doesn't work as well like when you've got a whole bunch of stuff here together like this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but a lot of times it will make these little ghost hairs out like that. It didn't do it that time, but I basically will see like that. So I only really use it for these ones that are really out by themselves like this, and I think it works great for those. But for things that are in closer, we're going to do something different. See how it leaves these things? That's right. Okay, good. So you get the big strays that way. If there's anything in here that's a big stray, like maybe something going across her face, we could use it, if we make it a little bit smaller, to fix some of these. All right, that's enough on that, I think. We could take out this strand here, but I don't really mind that. I kind of like that strand on her, so we're going to leave that there. All right, now we're going to switch over to the clone stamp tool, or S. I'm going to just bring it up to 100. And I am not too worried about this being perfect because I know I'm going to go back and add some texture. So all I'm doing is cloning from out here, kind of right next to where it is, and moving up this way. Now you will notice at some point that this will sometimes make a little bit of a halo around her, and it's not too bad right now, but let's keep doing this. Maybe we'll see it down here when we do a lot more. All I'm trying to do is get kind of a smooth outline going through here so that I don't have all this all these different stray hairs going everywhere, that I just kind of have a nice soft drop off of the hair like that. And you can see it kind of has this area where it gets a little darker as it's closer to her. And if you start experiencing that, what you can do is just drop this down to about 50%, get a little bigger brush, and just kind of paint it out. You can barely see it. You might not even be able to see it on your monitor. But so there we go. There's our hair before and after. Much better. All right, let's go in now and clean up some of these imperfections here on her. So let's go ahead and make a new layer. We'll just call this skin. Same thing applies. We want to make sure that both on this tool we've got all layers, and on this tool we've got all layers. So we're going to start out here. Come in close, and again we are over here on the spot healing tool. Whoops. A little bit bigger, and just gonna knock out anything that looks like it needs to be cleaned up. Any sort of little blemishes. This is the thing where you could go completely crazy and you could spend an hour doing this. I don't like this area here, we've got a highlight right next to a shadow, almost makes it look like there's a problem there, and so I would probably hit that and kind of make that go away. It's leaving kind of a weird thing here on her skin that we'll go back and fix here in a second. Just going to take these out. A lot of these again won't show up once we kind of darken down the image, but it's so easy just to go in and clean it up right now. I'm going to go ahead and take this out, even though we're supposedly just working on the skin. It's kind of bugging me. Okay. That's pretty good. That's good. We're not trying to give her porcelain skin or anything like that. We're just trying to clean up some bigger things like that. There you go. Before and after. Okay, so now I've got all these taken care of here. I probably would normally just go ahead and compress this on down just to make it easier to work with the background. I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to need to go back and redo any of these pieces here. What I would probably do is go ahead and save this state right here so that I could get back to any of these if I needed to. But for this tutorial and to make things a little simpler, what I'm going to do is go ahead and just turn off this bottom layer, select all these and do layer, merge layers, so that we've got it all on one together. It's calling it skin, but we'll call that retouched. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the quick selection tool like that, and then I'm just going to come up here to select subject, let it do its work, and it looks like it did a pretty good job right off the bat. Let's go ahead and hit select and mask. That looks pretty good. It's given us nice selection down here, and it's good soft going along up here. I think we're pretty good with this as it is, so we're just going to output to new layer with layer mask, hit OK. And here she is. So we've got her sitting on top with the background masked out. Let's turn these other two layers back on. Now what we want to do is bring in some background layers. Okay, so I've brought in these layers right here to try out. Let's get a little more space on her. Let's drag this one in first, and we'll move it around. I'm going to put it up here in the corner, hit Command T, and I'm holding down Shift so that I can move it however I want. Just like that. Hit Return. Obviously, it's covering everything up. We need to move it down so it's behind her, and it looks kind of silly. However, what we will do now is change this to one of these different modes. Probably Overlay, Soft Light. Let's go with Overlay. I think Overlay works well for this. So now we're seeing her on top with this just affecting the gray behind her. Now, I think that works pretty well. Let's turn that off for a second. Bring this one in. Same thing. Let's hit Command T so we can see where it is. Put that corner there. The other corner go. Just stretching this out so it covers the whole image. Hit Return. Okay, so we've got that. Oh, we got to change our mode. Try maybe. I think Overlay works again there. So there's that background. There's that background. We could even get really crazy and combine them together. And then we could even play with the intensities of them. I think that actually looks kind of nice combining those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift, click the other one so I've got them both selected, hit the folder, and let's call this background. So now I've got both of those sitting in here. And this will allow us to play around with just that background a little bit because, for example, I think it's a little too saturated. So we're going to come here and add a hue saturation. Bring down the saturation a little bit because I want that texture, but I don't necessarily need all that color. Here we go. I think that works better. So I'm happy with that. All right, next up, we need to go through and do a little bit of dodging and burning to work on some of these highlight and shadow areas. So here's how we will do that. We're going to come over here to Layer, New Layer, and when we get in here, we're going to we'll just put DB for Dodge and Burn. We want to change the mode to Soft Light, and when you do that, it's going to do this option to do a 50% gray. Hit OK. And we're going to dodge and burn on this 50% gray layer, and there's a bunch of different ways to do this as well. Everybody's got their thing, but this is the way I like to do it. Let's change to burn. Put that a little down. Change to the burn tool. And what we're going to do here is focus on areas that we know we want to darken. For example, I'd probably want to do a little bit on here. We can do a little bit around the edges, just to kind of vignette things a little bit. You probably need to bring this up to about 12. It's a little better. Darken that a little bit at the top. And we can come through some of these darker areas. Just give them a little more darkening. It's just going to give us a little more texture. And it'll show off more when we go back and do the opposite. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Oops. There we go. Back to our burn tool to go in and darken those eyebrows a little bit. Darken the lashes. And a lot of this will just be to your taste of what you like it to look like. But I'm just going through just to give her a little more form. I might go ahead and darken back here a little bit. I've got this area here that I'm probably going to, oops, I don't want to hit that. Just this area next to it. It's just a little too dark. Bring that down like that. I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead now and switch to dodge. And I'm going to do like a kind of a big soft on the forehead, top of the eye. You can do some under here. It's already got kind of a good highlight here, but we can use it to kind of round out some of these areas that we want to have just a little more highlight to them. Coming through here. Put a little on top of the lips there. And we can really come through here in the hair. And you can see there. And it doesn't look like you're doing too much, but we'll see it here in a minute when we look at the before and after. It just kind of allows us to come through and add. And I don't even try to be too consistent with it. Because I don't want it to be like a bright line going through the image. I just want little areas where you're picking up a little more reflection and things like that. Come through here, put it back on there. Some through here. And again, this is something that you could spend an hour going through doing this. And you know, that's how you're really going to get some fantastic images, is spending a lot of time doing some of this. But I'm just trying to show you the concept without keeping you here for 45 minutes watching this. Okay, so we've done a pretty good amount of dodge and burn on her, and we can turn that off and on. Okay, so there's the before, there's the after. Like, look in the hair, before, after. Just gives it a little more texture, and you can really see on her face. There's the before and the after. Really kind of makes the mask of the face jump out. So I'm happy with that. All right, one last thing we're going to do to this image, and that's just to kind of give it this soft glow. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer. And I'm going to head down Command, Option, Shift, and hit E. And that's going to make us a new layer here that combines everything down below. And what we're going to do here is change this to black and white. Just Command, Shift, U to make it black and white. We're going to blur it. So Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And want it enough that we can still recognize her, but that it's clearly softer. That's about where I normally try to hit. Okay, just like that. And then we are going to change to soft light. There we go. Now again, it's giving it a super warm feeling. And I think it's a little too much of an effect. You're going to also, it's going to cause some of these dark areas to block up. So it's doing a little more than we want. So what I'm going to do is dial it back a little bit to like that. About 63%, I think works nicely. And then I'm still a little concerned about the bright background, so I'm going to add another layer on top. Getting a lot of layers going here, but it's all right. With just a brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm just literally going to take a brush with black at about 15%, a big brush, and I'm going to kind of just go around the edges, especially up there. Now the thing about vignetting is you want it to look like there's no vignetting, and we've obviously not accomplished that here. This is way too dark, but that's all right because we're going to go back and fix that. So we've got that like that. I might even drop it down to 4%, do a little more just to feather it like that. And then we can come over here, we can also play with these blending modes. What would that look like in some of these other modes? I think the overlay might actually work. I kind of like it in normal, but let's just bring back the opacity a little bit. Just like that. And you can see it really has taken the edge off of that. But when you look at it like that, it doesn't look heavily vignetted. Now what you can do is, if you feel like it's still got a little too much saturation to it, we could put an adjustment layer here on top with hue saturation, and we could pull that down a little bit, which I think might work on this image. Not too much. Just about 7. Let's see the before and after. Just kind of takes a little of that edge off. Still a few things we could go back here, and I'd probably go back and repair a few of these little things on the blouse that are kind of sticking out now. A lot of times once you do some of these adjustments, things that weren't catching your eye before suddenly start catching your eye, and so sometimes you've got to go back and adjust them further. Let's just for grins go ahead and select all of these and put them in a folder so that we can see the before and after. So that's where we started out. That's where we ended. Now I might be inclined to go through into like either a Topaz or Luminar and further process, but as far as just going with Photoshop, I think from there to there is a pretty nice jump. Gives it a lot more depth and emotion, and I'm happy with that. So that's how I would get from point A to point B on an image like this one. So there you go. That's pretty much my process from beginning to end on a typical image on how to enhance it, just give it a little more impact using Photoshop. Now we could go back in and use things like Luminar and Topaz to give it even more punch at the end. It's really great to polish off the images with some of those pieces of software. But that gives you a good idea of what you can do with a base image to really move it forward, move it up to the next level. What I would love to hear is your workflow. How do you typically process an image like this? Are there any steps that I left out that you typically include, or anything that you think is not really necessary? Would love to hear how your workflow compares to what we did today. So be sure to leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. But that's all I've got for this week, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.